Hello guys and welcome to my channel. In today's training I will show you how you can configure Cisco UCM Homelab. The prerequisite for this tutorial is that you need to have a physical equipment and that you also need to have a bootable ISO with Cisco UCM. In my case I will use the version 12.5, although all of the things that I will show you in this tutorial apply also to the previous versions and to the next versions, and the steps are the same, so it's totally up to you based on your preferences which version you want to use. And so that's the topology that we're going to use. As you can see, it is pretty straightforward, and actually I think that's the simplest that you can get. So as you can see, our router will act as both DHCP and NTP server in the network. In regular work environment, you probably wouldn't want to configure a router to be time source in your network. You probably would want to use some external time source, but since it's only a testing environment, then I think that it is totally fine. As you can also see, all of the devices in the network will use the same subnet. So the laptop, the UCM server, and the phones will be in the same subnet. It is totally up to you. You can configure it so that you will use different subnets, create separate VLANs for IP phones and for the UCM server, and configure the router as a router on a stick to enable inter-VLAN routing. Actually, that would probably make a little bit more sense, and that to look a little bit more like of what you can expect in a regular environment. But the goal of this video is to show you how you can configure this lab using the simplest configuration possible and to make it work. And at the end of this video, hopefully we will be able to register our phones and to make calls between them. Alright, so let's get started. Okay guys, so let's configure our network. I will use PATI and a console cable, and as you can see, I've already connected my console cable to my router. So let's configure the router. Let's enable it. It's conft. First thing, we will configure our network interface between the router and the switch. So let's use the address 192.168.0.1 and our mask. And you also have to no shut the interface, because on default all of the interfaces on routers are disabled, so you have to remember that. Okay, exit, and now let's configure our DHCP pool. IP DHCP pool. Let's name it, for example, IP phones. Okay, default router in our case will be the interface address between router and a switch. Default router 192.168.0.1 and option 150. What this option does, essentially, it tells the phones what is the address of the NTP TFTP server in the network, which in our case is our Cisco UCM server. So you have to remember to use that option, because otherwise the phones won't be able to communicate with the Cisco UCM server and obtain the configuration files. So it is essential to use this option as well when you are configuring the DHCP pool. Okay, option 150, so the IP address will be our Cisco UCM server address, so 192.168.0.3. And since we won't use DHCP to configure the address of the laptop and the UCM server, let's also exclude the first 10 addresses from the network, since we also want our phones to use addresses that begin with 11 and 12. So let's also use the command IP DHCP excluded addresses 192.168.1.168.10. Okay, and the last thing that we have to do on the router is to configure it as the NTP master in the network NTP master, and let's use some high stratum. For example, let's use 5, since we are not configuring this router to obtain the IP address from any other source. Then I think that will be fine. So let's use 5, and let's actually show the status of the NTP on this router. Okay, so as you can see, the clock is synchronized, the stratum is 5, so exactly how we configured it, and the reference is 127.127.1.1. So what it essentially means is that the router has synchronized its time to itself, because this address is the local IP address of the router. Alright, so that will be it. When it comes to the network configuration, we won't have to do anything on the switch, because we don't want to use any separate VLANs, and all of the ports on the switch are enabled on default, so there is no necessity to configure the switch. The only thing that we have to do when it comes to the network that is left, we also have to configure our Ethernet adapter on the laptop, and we have to give it an IP address 168.0.2, and the mask will be 5.0, and the gateway is our port's IP address, so 192.168.0.1. Okay, so that will be it when it comes to the network configuration, and next I will show you how you can configure the UCM server and how to install it on VMware. Okay, so let's install our Cisco UCM. Let's click on File, New Virtual Machine. Okay, typical is fine. I use ISO image, so we will have to use our bootable ISO image. Okay, click on Next. Guest operating system, you have to choose Linux, and also you have to choose the version Red Hat 6 64-bit. Let's click on Next. Let's name it, for example, Cisco UCM. Let's click on Next, and you have to also configure the maximum disk size in gigabytes. In case of version 12.5, the list is 80 gigs, so we will have to use 80 gigs. In our case, although you don't have to worry, the VM won't use that much space, it's just the maximum disk size. Okay, split virtual disk into multiple, it doesn't really matter, so we can leave it as it is. Okay, don't automatically power on. Okay, let's click on Finish. Let's click on Close. And now let's also configure the network adapter. We'll use bridged connection, so you have to use this option. Processors, you need to use 2 cores of the CPU, so let's change the number of processors to 2. Memory 2 gigs, it is fine for CUCM 12.5. You can use 2 gigs. If you have more RAM, actually on this machine I only have 8 gigs, so I will allow UCM to use 2. That will be fine. Okay, let's click on Save, and let's power on this VM. Okay, and let's go through the installation. Okay, we don't have to actually test the media. Let's click on skip. Okay, select the product. Okay. Okay. Do you want to proceed with the install? Yes. Okay, we don't have to use this. We can click on skip. Okay, let's click on continue. Okay, click on proceed. Like to apply an upgrade patch. No, we are not performing an upgrade, so let's click on no. Continue. Okay, let's choose your time zone. It can be Los Angeles, that is fine. Okay. Click on continue. Do you want to change the MTU size? No, we don't have to. So click on no. Do you want to use DHCP? No, we will use static address. So let's name our UCM server. Let's, for example, use Cisco UCM IP address 192.168.0.3 255.255.255.0, and the gateway is the port 192.168.0.1. Okay, click on OK. Do you want to enable DNS? No, that's not necessary. Okay, so now what we are configuring is the administrator ID that is used for the UCM CLI. So you have to set this up. Let's, for example, use administrator password. Okay, click on OK. Okay, organization. Okay, let's say, for example, CUCM lab unit HQ location. Let's, for example, use Warsaw. State. Okay. Country. Let's choose Poland. Okay. Click on OK. Is the server the first node in the cluster? Yes, in our case it is. NTP server. So now we will have to specify the NTP address, and the NTP server address can be the link address. So 192.168.0.1. Let's click on proceed. Okay, now let's specify security password. Okay. Do you want to configure simple mail transfer protocol? No. And we don't have to use smart call home because we won't be collecting any logs, and we won't use call home server. So let's click on disable. Let's click on OK. Application username. Okay, so that is the administrator ID that you're going to use to access the CUCM web page. So for example, let's say CUCM admin password. Okay. The platform is complete. Select OK to continue. Okay. Alright guys, so now that you see this prompt, it means that the installation was successful and that you now will be able to access your CUCM server through your web browser. You will most likely have to wait for a few minutes in order for it to initialize. Although after a few minutes you should be able to access your CUCM server just fine. So see you in a few minutes. As you can see, I was able to access CUCM server by typing its IP address in my web browser. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on CUCM Manager, and before we will change any configuration in CM administration, we will have to go to Cisco Unified Serviceability. Okay, now let's click on Tools and let's click on Service Activation. And let's check all services and let's enable all of them. Alright, let's click on OK. It will for sure take a few minutes to activate, so I will speed up this process and see you after all of them will be activated. Alright, so now as you can see, all of the services are activated. So that means that we will be able to finally register our phones. To do that, we will have to switch to CM administration. Let's click on Go. And now let's hover to Device, Phone, and let's click on Add New. In my case, the phones that I'm using are both Cisco 7962. Let's click on Next. And you have to also specify the device protocol. It can be Skinny, it can be also SIP, it depends on you. In my case, I will use Skinny. So let's click on Next. Okay, now we have to provide the MAC address of the phone. So let me type in the first MAC, E80400T6702. E80484. Oh, okay, I made a typo. E84000T6702. Okay. Right, device pool. Let's click on default. Phone button template. Let's use standard 7962 because that's the phone that I'm using. SCCP because we are using Skinny, yes. Common phone profile, standard common phone profile, that is alright. Location, okay, that is okay. Privacy default, mobility, okay, let's use anonymous because we don't have any users on the CUCM server yet, so let's use anonymous. Okay. Security profile, we also have to specify that. Okay, let's click on save. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we have the profile for this phone. Let's add also a directory number for the phone. Let's, for example, use 1001. Description phone 1. Already named phone 1. Okay. Let's click on save. Alright, now let's click on apply config. Let's click on OK. Yep. Alright. And click on save. config. Okay. Alright, okay, and in the meantime I will also add a profile for the second phone. Okay, so now as you can see, I've created device profiles for both of these phones. So what we will have to do now would be to factory reset both of them, and they should register just fine. Let me move to the phones and I will show you how you can do it. Alright, so let me show you how you can factory reset the phone. What you have to do is you have to connect the Ethernet cable while pressing the pound key on the phone. So let me do this. Okay. And you have to press the pound key. You have to hold it until all of the lights will blink on the phone. Alright, and now we have to use the command 349167285 pound key. Okay, and the phone will reset all of its settings. To default, it will wipe all of the data and it will download the configuration file from our TFTP server, which is CUCM. So I will speed up this process and see you after the phone will stop upgrading. Alright, so as you can see, the phone has been reset. It is successfully registered and it also has its directory number. I've already performed the factory reset on the other phone. It is successfully registered as well. So let's see if the call function works. Let's dial the other number, 1002. Let's click on dial. Okay, perfect. Alright, so as you can hear, it is working. I'm able to call the other phone. Okay, so let's end the call. Alright, so that would be it. We were able to successfully register both of the phones. The call function is working. So if you liked this video, then don't forget to leave a thumb up under the video and see you guys next time.